In this lecture we are going to talk about arrays. So first I create a file using the nano editor. Let's name it array.c. First we include the library of stdio.h, and then we create our main function in which we want to write our code. Now if we want to create arrays in C, first we should specify the data type, because as we explained something like this in the assembly module, we explained that array is just a collection of other data. So it's a just a collection of other data. What I mean is that, for example, before, if we wanted to create a integer of we would name just one variable like a, and we say, for example, this is equal to 24. But when we want to create an array, we want to create other type, we want to create other data like this 24, a set of data like this a that you see in here. So if I say int b and then 5, it means that I want to create 5 integer, because if I wanted to create one integer, I would just do something like this. So if I want to create 5 integers, I say int, because the type of every element is in my array would be integer, right? Then the name of the array which I want to be b, and then the size of the array or the number of elements in my array, which would be 5. So this would be equal to, now let's say I want to initialize the value at the same time of the declaration. So 2 I want to be the first element, 0x65 I want to be the second element, a character like d I want to be the third element. As you saw in the assembly, we did exactly something like this, which actually I want to bring it up to. So I say cd to go back to my main page, and if I type ls, I think it was in the array.nasm. So if I say arrays.nasm in here, you saw that I said my array, and then we create several elements or bytes in the decimal representation, in the characters, and base 10. So the last value I want to, let's say I want it to be 65 in decimal, right? And then I close it, and we explain in the assembly that the name, the label in here would be a pointer pointing to the address of the first element. This name, the b, would be the same thing in C. The name of the array, which is b, would be a pointer which holds the address of the first element, which is 2. Now I want to do to print some of the values so that you better understand these things. If I say d, print fd, and print the a variable, which you see in here, we would have the 24 printed in here, right? But if I say printfd and then print the name, the array name, which is b, then we would have the address of the first element in the decimal representation. So I just save it, exit, and compile this array.c, create the executable with the name of array, and then just execute the array. Now you see the first element is 24, which is again the value saved into a variable, but the second printf has printed this number, which is in decimal. So this b is just the address of the first element, while a in here is just a placeholder. If I want to see the address of the a variable, or 24, I would say that 24 is in a memory cell, right? So if I want to find the address, I would say ampersand. Also, let me just change this from d to x so that we would see the result in the hexadecimal representation. So ampersand a would give me the address of the a variable, while the b would give me the address of the first element in here. So I save it, I exit, compile it, execute it, and as you see, we have two different addresses. The first address is the address of the a variable, the second is the address of the first element of the array. Now if I execute it again, you see we have different kind of addresses every time that we execute it. Now after this, what I want to do is to create a for loop which is able to, or actually let me just first print some other things. So I want to let me just cut this and print it a couple of more times. What I want to do is to print something called size of. I want to know the size of the array. Also I want to know the size of the b0 in here. But what we mean by b0 is that I want the first element in the b array. The first element is 2. So if I say size of b2, it means that I want to see the how many bytes does the number 2 in here, or the first element in the array, take. Also if we just say b0 in here to print the first element, it would be, I think, better. I want to print it in the decimal representation. So for this printf we would have 2, the first element. For this printf, let me change it to the also the decimal representation instead of hexadecimal. The size of this, because we know integers get 4 bytes in the C and using GCC compiler. Now I think you might completely understand what I mean by that, that the integers take 4 bytes in the GCC compiler, because we talked about it a lot of times in other lectures. So for example, you could create your own compiler which integers take only 1 byte. So the size of the b0, the first element in here, would be 4 bytes because the array is of type of int. This is important, the int type in here. When we say int and b5, it means that we want to create, or I'm telling the compiler that please assign 5 times 4 bytes for me, which would be equal to 20. So this size of b would be equal to 20 bytes. Now I save it, I exit, compile it. So now we have a problem in here which says yes, put a, if we look in here, size of b, a parenthesis in here, well, this would be correct. Yes, we have a parenthesis in here, and we exit, compile it. Now we execute it again. Well, the first 2 would be the addresses, then we have 2 which is the first element, then we have 20 which is the size of the whole all of the array, and then we have 4. Let me see what the 4 is. The last print of yes is the size of any element in the array, which is 4 bytes, because you have 5 elements. 5 times 4 would be equal to 20.